Andy and Judy had a big worry. Would they ever be able to retire without running out of money? They weren't alone in feeling this way. Like many people approaching retirement, they had seen friends and family struggle. Some hadn't saved enough, while others hadn't planned properly, and in their later years, they had to rely on financial help from loved ones. So Andy and Judy were determined to avoid that, but they weren't sure how. Their dilemma was one many retirees face. Do we spend freely and risk running out of money, or do we cut back too much and miss out on the retirement we've worked so hard for? Fortunately, they found a way to have both financial security and a fulfilling retirement, living comfortably on £5,000 a month. So today, I'll walk you through exactly how they did it, so you can see what's possible for your own retirement. Let's get started. So let's take a closer look at Andy and Judy's financial plan. They've done a great job saving and preparing for retirement. But you might be wondering, how could someone with this much money still feel anxious about retirement? The reality is, whether you have £200,000, £500,000, or £5 million, that question of, am I going to be okay, never really goes away until you have a clear plan that shows you exactly how your money will support you. And that's why, instead of focusing on the specific numbers, I want you to focus on the framework we're about to go through, because the same principles apply no matter the size of your portfolio. Using some round numbers, Andy and Judy have around 350k in each of their pensions, 150k in each of their ISAs, and a joint general investment account worth £200,000 and around £50,000 in savings. So a total amount of about 1.3 million in their retirement portfolio. They also own their home outright with no mortgage. And for this plan, we are assuming their investments will grow at an average of 5.87% per year until they retire, but also throughout retirement until they get to the end, which is age 95. Of course, these are just projections, not guarantees, but they help create a structured plan that allows them to make informed decisions about their retirement. Now, let's walk through how we use this plan to give Andy and Judy the confidence to enjoy their retirement without worrying about running out of money. So let's take a look at the goals that Andy and Judy have. Just real quick, highlighting their age, Andy is 60, Judy is 59. Their goal is to retire in 3 years' time at 63 and 62. So they want to know how they can retire together, start enjoying life, traveling, and having the adventures they want in retirement at the same time. When they do retire, their goal is to spend £5,000 per month throughout retirement. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that's their goal. But they have this anxiety, this fear of ending up like some of their friends and family. They don't want to be dependent on their children to pay their bills at the end of their lives because they overspent early in retirement and ran out of money. The next thing we did was take a look at their current and future income. You can see Andy's salary here and Judy's salary here, but more importantly, we want to understand what their income will look like in retirement. Both Andy and Judy will receive their state pension at age 67, so that's 4 years of no income, and they will be reliant on their investments to fund this gap. Those are the income sources today and in the future. Along the way, they're both saving about 8% to their workplace pensions. So we know their goals, their fears, the assets they have today, and their income sources both now and in retirement. We also know the contributions they're making to their retirement plans between now and retirement. Now, what we want to do is tie this all together. As we always do in these case study videos, we start with a look at their cash flows both today and in retirement. So cash flows today are pretty straightforward. We take a look at their income, so both working for 3 more years and retiring at the same time. We don't want to just look at income today though, we also want to understand what the income will look like once they retire. You can see there will be a couple of years with zero income because Andy and Judy only receive their state pension at age 67. But once their state pension starts, they will have a pretty strong foundation of guaranteed and inflation-linked income for the rest of their lives. Next, we want to compare that to their expenses. Not so much today, but when they retire. They want to live on £60,000 per year, which is £5,000 per month. That is in today's pounds. But we don't want to look at just the day. We want to understand what that number will need to be in the future due to inflation. As their goal is to have £5,000 per month after taxes are paid, And so we need to account for estimated taxes. Now, this is before implementing any tax strategy, but we can project their current plan to understand what taxes they will likely pay in retirement. So then we can ask, what's the total amount Andy and Judy need to withdraw each year to cover taxes and still have £5,000 per month to spend as they wish? To understand Andy and Judy's retirement income, we look at their income summary projection, which lays everything out pretty simply. The light green bars represent their income sources, so employment income before retirement and then state pension income from age 67. The blue bars represent portfolio withdrawals from the pensions, ISAs, and general investment account. At the start of retirement, their initial withdrawal rate from their portfolio is around 4%. If their investments are structured correctly and they follow the right withdrawal strategy, this is generally considered a very sustainable rate. However, what's interesting about Andy and Judy's plan is that while they begin with a 4% withdrawal rate, this drops once their state pensions kick in. This isn't because they're spending less, their spending remains the same throughout retirement, but because their state pension is covering more of their expenses, reducing how much they need to withdraw from their portfolio. So overall, things are looking very strong. The next step was to check how their retirement portfolio evolves over time. We started with today's portfolio value, applied the assumed growth rate while acknowledging there are no guarantees, and mapped out their long-term projection. So even though they will be withdrawing from their portfolio throughout retirement, it's still expected to continue growing. Based on these projections, they could still have around £1.77 million left in their portfolio at the end of retirement. So great news for Andy and Judy. They can retire comfortably. But the real question isn't just can they do it, it's how can they optimize it. So optimization isn't just about finances. It's about making sure their investments are structured to support a reliable income. They're using smart tax strategies to reduce their lifetime tax bill, and they have the right protections in place. Well, and most importantly, their money fully supports their lifestyle they want. We originally projected they could safely spend £5,000 per month, but what if we increased that? Instead of 5,000, what if we spent 10% more, 5,500 a month? Could they afford it? Well, looking at the projections, the answer is yes. Even with the higher spending, they still have a substantial portfolio balance at age 95. So now we can ask, is the goal to leave behind as much money as possible? Or is it to get the most out of life while they can? If they're not aiming to be the richest people in the graveyard, then there's room to increase spending early in retirement. Of course, there's no guarantee of steady market returns, and that's why we ran the plan through a volatility analysis, which simulates 1,000 different market scenarios. And the results, well, even with a higher spending, their plan still has a strong probability of success. But at £66,000 or 5,500 per month, there's a chance they might need to adjust spending if markets drops or inflation rises faster than expected. What does an adjustment look like? Well, it doesn't mean panic stations. It just means having some flexibility. For example, reducing spending slightly in a tough year, delaying a big holiday, or holding off on a large purchase. So with a solid financial plan in place, Andy and Julie aren't just on track to retire, they're on track to enhance their lifestyle without unnecessary worry. Because great retirement planning isn't just about having enough money, it's about making the most of it. So for Andy and Judy, the big question wasn't just can they retire, but can they retire the way they want to and when they want to? And the answer was yes. There's a very high probability that they'll be able to. But they had two key concerns. They didn't just want to avoid running out of money, they wanted a solid plan with enough buffer so that even if markets get volatile or inflation rose or unexpected expense popped up, they would still be financially secure. Also, they didn't want to hold back. Retirement wasn't about sitting at home watching the world go by. They wanted to live well, travel, enjoy hobbies, and spend freely without constantly second guessing if they could afford it. So here's what they did. Andy and Judy really enjoyed their jobs. They weren't desperate to quit tomorrow, but they also wanted to know when they would have enough to stop working on their terms. But what if they adjusted their plan to retire 1 year earlier? Andy at 62 and Judy at 61. After running the numbers, the answer was very clear. Yes, they could retire 1 year earlier, and they meant they would have slightly less money in the end. But that's not the goal. The goal is to get the most out of life with their money. And the financial planning didn't stop there. Well, once we worked through how to make adjustments to their portfolio, ensuring they were well diversified and set up to provide an income in retirement, we looked at their withdrawal strategy. So how best to access the different accounts in a sustainable way, but also to minimize taxes. Step one was all about showing Andy and Judy what the ideal retirement could look like. And then step two was optimizing their plan as much as we could. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about your plans for retirement, then do get in touch. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.